Welcome to Talks with Tracy, with certified hypnotherapist, life coach, and licensed mental health professional, Tracy Claremont. Tracy will share her healing journey and explore the many meaningful alternative healing methods in our world today that will support you in doing your own deepest emotional healing. So please welcome the host of Talks with Tracy, Tracy Claremont. Let the suffering end and the healing begin.
Hello and welcome to Talks with Tracy. I'm your host, Tracy Claremont, coming to you live on the Bold Brave Television Network. Thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate every single one of you who takes the time to listen to my show. And of course, thank you, Bold Brave Television Network, for giving me this opportunity. All right, so today I am calling the episode, Oh, the Irony, Tracy Gets Stuck. Oh my goodness. So as you may know, I dedicated the whole month of January to the topic of getting unstuck, only to find myself at the end of 4 weeks of incredible discussions with some of my very favorite people, stuck myself. What the heck? So today I'm going to tell you how I used the information from the past 4 shows to get myself unstuck. And it's actually pretty cool how information from all of those past 4 episodes of Talks with Tracy really applied to what was happening to me, and it really helped me. Utilizing some of those tools really helped me to shift. So, and here I am today. So it all worked. I'm excited to share with you today. So how did I know I was stuck? Let's start there. The first thing that I noticed was that I was very emotional. I was feeling very heavy, very sad, like I was trying not to cry all the time. You know, I resorted to one of my old go-to strategies when this started happening. I had to keep going. I had to continue to do shows, and I had to work. I had to tend to my family. All of those things still had to happen regardless of how I was feeling. So I used that go-to strategy that I had of looking like I have it all together on the outside while I'm, falling apart on the inside. So I am actually an expert at this, unfortunately. I spent many, many, many years doing that, using that strategy, a good share of my life, fine-tuning that skill. Now, thankfully, at this point in my healing, I know that to do this only temporarily as I sort through what in fact is going on with me. It kind of buys me some time while I get myself back on track. I definitely don't want to stay and wouldn't want to stay in that for using that strategy for the long run, or I would risk falling into that state of denial that once was a large part of my life. So I wouldn't want to stay in that, or I'd start, having those patterns of pretending that are super unhealthy. So that, back then I would do so much justifying, even defending my outward happiness when I knew full well that I was not happy on the inside. So I won't ever allow myself to return to that again. Today, I choose to live in a genuine and authentic manner. So what were the other signs of being stuck? Well, my creativity was completely blocked, like non-existent. I found myself crying around to my very kind and patient husband, thank you, about how I didn't know what I was going to talk about on the upcoming show, which is this show that I'm doing today. And I don't mean to say crying around as a way of sounding negative or judgmental towards myself. I was literally crying and expressing my sadness, my frustration about not being able to think, not being able to create content, not having any clue what I was going to do I usually have a few shows planned out. I was like, I can't think of anything. So, I was having a hard time thinking of what to have for dinner, let alone create show content. So my mind felt cloudy and chaotic, disorganized. And as I said already, I was feeling very emotional, really sad. And my husband, he's always on the receiving end of my big emotion. My sisters also receive quite a bit of that as well. I do my absolute best, though, I will say, never to place my big emotion on my children. I am responsible for them. They are not responsible for me. So I leaned on my supports. I received comfort and kindness, and I really appreciate that because I really was needing it. So another very clear sign that something was going on within me was that my body hurt. Oh my goodness, my body hurt so badly. My joints were swollen. It hurt to walk. I've mentioned before that I have a hip condition that is from a birth defect when I was born, and I try not to limp, and I try not to really show that. It makes me a little self-conscious. Well, it's really hard when my joints are swollen and I'm in a lot of pain. So that's not, anything I want to be putting out there. I was physically drained. I was exhausted. Usually when my joints swell up, when my body stiffens like that, it's a sign of emotion needing to be released, or maybe emotion stuck, or emotion processing working its way through me so it can be released. And I know all this, but I had no idea what it was and what emotion was happening, other than me feeling overwhelmingly and intensely sad. And somehow, in the midst of all this, I was fully expecting myself to have creative inspiration and create show content. I was trying to force creative ideas to pop into my head. It just wasn't happening. It doesn't work that way. So, I have this image in my head of Princess Poppy from that first Trolls movie. I think it was in 2016. So, just in case you are not somebody who repeatedly watches children's movies with little people, I will remind you that in the first Trolls movie, it's all about, first off, a community of trolls who love to sing and dance and hug. Oh my gosh, I would fit in there perfectly into their community. Well, Princess Poppy, she's the happiest troll ever born. And in this movie, their happiness becomes threatened when a group of really miserable creatures called the Bergens discover that they can be happy if they eat the trolls. So they capture the trolls, and an adventure ensues to save them from the Bergens. Well, towards the end of the movie, Princess Poppy, who is all about happiness, she starts feeling defeated. She feels like she failed. She hasn't saved her people, herself. And for the first time, she starts to express negativity. She kind of becomes dark. She uses sarcasm. And as she does that, her beautiful color begins to turn gray. Like she turns completely gray. Well, I'm telling you, people, I felt that that was happening to me. Princess Poppy here, who is all about forward movement, positivity, going with the flow of the universe, trusting, believing that everything is happening for a higher good, everything is happening for our higher good. I was turning gray. It did not feel good. I felt stuck, and I needed to get my color back. I actually kind of had to laugh at myself when I realized that I had just completed all these shows about becoming unstuck and then became stuck myself. So trust me, the irony of it all was not lost on me. So I decided that I desperately needed to practice what I preach. I needed to get my color back. I needed to do something differently. I remembered both Susie Wu and Lisa Adams, guests that had been on the show and talked to me about being unstuck. They both mentioned needing to shift your energy in these moments and do something differently. So I thought, okay, I could start with that. I really wanted to shift my energy. And I also wanted to remember all the information shared in those past four shows, and the tools so that I could practice them and help myself get moving forward. So I kind of combined these two things, doing something differently and reviewing the shows. Now, it may sound strange, but I don't actually go back and watch my shows very often. So it was something different that I was going to do, and to shift my energy. So I did this with the intention of listening, figuring out why this was happening to me, utilizing the tools that were being recommended by these brilliant guests who I trust and respect. So I decided to do that. And then, so that was like my beginning plan for getting unstuck. Super productive. Go, Tracy. So I felt the shift begin right away, right as soon as I had developed a plan. As right after I developed that plan, I thought, well, okay, a little creativity snuck in there for me. And I thought maybe I'm supposed to talk about this. Maybe the next topic for my show is sharing my own experience with being stuck. I'm an open book on this show. I like to share. I like to be a demonstration of how all of these things can be utilized and applied to our daily lives. Anybody can use them to move forward. So I thought sorting that out, sharing my experience, it really made sense to me. I was moving forward. I already started that getting unstuck. And then boom, guess what happened? A roadblock popped into my brain. Along with this epiphany that I'm going to do this show about being unstuck, came this big, overwhelming moment of self doubt and personal insecurity. Yuck. I had already been in this grayness. I'd already been questioning, like, should I even have a show if I can't think of content? Should I even be doing this? And then the next layer of that self doubt was, does anybody really want to hear this much detail of my life? Ew, yuck, huh? Like an inferiority complex happening, insecurities. So that didn't feel good. I did remind myself that I value sameness, and I do believe there's a lot to be gained from joining in sameness. It's the power of relating to one another and knowing that you're not alone. I thought somebody out there may relate to this. Somebody may, decide to use these tools and listen to these words of wisdom and whatnot, shift their beliefs, shift their own energy. So if that happens with the show that I'm doing today, then that is a win for Tracy. All right, so I at that moment of big insecurity and self doubt, lack of self confidence, it feels very unpleasant, yucky. So I had to sweep that out of my mind. So also I had to be proactive, given that I was having some insecurities. And I thought, I need to be prepared for watching myself in these episodes. I didn't want to set any more roadblocks in my way. So I thought about, okay, I'm going to be watching myself on camera. I'm going to be listening to my voice and the things I say. So I don't want to be criticizing myself. I don't want this to be an exercise in self-criticism and self-judgment that gets me locked in more to being stuck. I really want to use this information and move forward. So I purposefully set my intention before reviewing my shows to love myself as I watch the shows so that I could really receive and use the information. And let me tell you, I learned so much by doing this. I'm super excited about sharing all of this with you today. So the first thing I did, I went back and I pinpointed exactly when I began feeling stuck. It was around Wednesday of the week of January 20th. Big things happening in the world at that time, the inauguration of President Trump and Martin Luther King Jr. Day. My guest the week before was Heather Rowan Robbins, and she had stated on their show that there was going to be a lot going on in the universe during this time. Now, I don't really speak the language of astrology, but she talked about how there was going to be difficult transits during this time happening. She specifically said during this time that it'll be important to do the deep inward work, which I'm all about, right? Deep dive inward. As these transits may show up in really difficult ways, she said that it would be important not to believe the stories that our brains may be telling us, especially if we're feeling unhappy, which I was. She said that this is a really common way for transits happening in the universe to influence us and show themselves up and show themselves in our daily lives. So she said, we may want to focus instead on becoming ready for something new, figuring out, really thinking about how we can be ready to uh, share new information in the world, how we want to share it, kind of keep our mindset in that place instead. So this certainly applied to what I was experiencing. Look at the garbage thoughts. Oh my gosh, the garbage thoughts that I was having. I was feeling unhappy. I was feeling frustrated. I was telling myself really negative things. And I thought that was interesting to connect that to what was happening in the universe with the transits that were happening around us. So she also said something that was very reassuring, which I tucked away in my brain and decided to use, and that was that people don't feel stuck unless they're getting ready for a shift. Discontent means that you're getting ready for something new. Well, that was great news, right? What a great reframe. In mental health therapy, we often help people reframe the thoughts that they're having. Well, what a great reframe. I was actually getting ready for a big positive shift to something new. Now, I also noticed that Lisa Adams in her show said there's no such thing as being stagnant. So maybe there was no such thing as being stuck, even. Rather, these are moments of discontent and discomfort. It was super unpleasant as we walk through those more difficult, sludgy kind of valleys in our forward movement. So that's change in perspective, which brought about another positive energy shift. So this was all helping me to calm down and think in terms of I actually was moving forward. I wasn't stagnant, and I was resisting, which is not a good thing. That makes it harder, but things were happening the way they were meant to happen. Now, I also want to draw attention to things that were happening in the world around this time and the energy that was happening in the world. But first, it's time to take a commercial break. I'll talk about how the energy in the world was affecting and impacting me directly. So we're going to take a break. Thanks for listening. We will return in just a couple minutes.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to easysense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's easysense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them, rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies, find settings that allow them to be the most productive, and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Welcome back to Talks with Tracy, coming to you live on the Bold Brave Television Network. Thank you so much for joining me again today. So I was just talking about how I ended up stuck after spending a solid month talking to guests about becoming unstuck. Oh, super ironic. After the, So I had been, thinking about what was going on in the world around this time when I was feeling unstuck. I had been, having people coming to me for 1 minute. I'm going to do something to clear something up really quick. Okay. Oh. One moment. Okay, I'll see if that works a little bit. Oh, it didn't work anyway. Okay, so I was thinking this was the week of the presidential inauguration. Just to be clear, I'm committed to not talking politics on my show. It's just not my thing at all. But I do need to draw attention to what was happening in the world during this time period because it contributed to my being stuck. So again, this is only for me explaining my personal experience, not to talk to have any kind of opinion about politics. So as I said, this was a time where this presidential inauguration happened. There were like things that the new president was doing, and people were coming to me in mental health therapy with a lot of fear and a lot of anxiety. And people were expressing on social media their opinions and thoughts. There was a lot on the news. There was a lot going on during this time. So as I took a look at what was happening with me, I really realized that all of this fear energy that was circulating around in our world was directly affecting me. I tend to be a sponge for energy happening in our world. I'm sure there's many empaths out there who can relate to that. And I realized that I was doing nothing to protect myself from this. I was just absorbing. Now, interestingly enough, my guest astrologer, Heather Rowan Robbins, she had pointed out on the show the week prior to my going into this grayness that our country is now headed into the Pluto return of the American Constitution. Now, one of the things that was creating fear in people that I was encountering and trying to help was this fear related to talk of changing the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution. Now, I live in a Native American community. I am Native American myself. And there was just all this unrest going on, this fear about citizenship possibly being taken away from Native American people if the Fourth Amendment was changed. So our ancestors were actually granted citizenship under the Fourth Amendment back in the day. Was that happening? Were we getting our citizenship taken away? No. But let me tell you, the fear was real. There was a lot of talk about it and steps being taken to protect ourselves. There was also fear related to losing employment, when some federal grant monies were frozen and whatnot. There's a lot of people in our area who have jobs that are federally funded, myself and my husband included. Now, just as a side note, going down a little rabbit hole temporarily, I think this is a great example of historical loss and trauma rearing its ugly head, right? I've mentioned epigenetics before, and I love talking about epigenetics. I plan on learning more about it, but epigenetics has scientifically proven that we hold the emotions and memories of our ancestors' experiences in our DNA for as far back as 7 generations. So maybe even more generations. So did you know that you can be emotionally reactive? Like something can happen in your day, and you can become emotionally reactive on a subconscious level. And you're being reactive based on the experiences and emotions of your ancestors. Did you know that? Super interesting. We hold the belief systems of our ancestors. It's fascinating to me. Susie Wu mentioned this on the show that she did with me most recently. And she said that we're a product of our environment right down to the cellular level. And we are. So anyway, that's just like a little side note. So with the recognition of all that heavy energy, fear energy happening in our world, I decided to take measures to remove the fear from me. I prayed, I smudged myself with sweetgrass, and then I zipped up my energy so that I wouldn't be absorbing all of that anymore. We're all creatures or beings of energy. We all have an energetic field that exists around us. And this is, again, all scientifically proven. It can even be scientifically measured. Our auras can be scientifically measured. It's our energetic aura, and we're constantly broadcasting like a big energy tower. Did you know that again, it's also been scientifically proven that our heart energy can go out as far as 5 miles around us, a 5-mile radius. It's like, when you drop a pebble in a pool of water and it ripples out. That's how our own energy is. Our energy ripples out into the world. So that was impacting me. So I took measures to do something about it. So I'm actually going to be talking more about our energetic aura with Susie Wu next week as I do a Valentine's show. And we're going to talk about how we can raise our vibration and send out, love energy so we can attract love energy. So yeah, that's next week. That'll be fun. Anyway, so as I was reviewing these shows that I did, I was able to take comfort in some of Susie Wu's words related to the astrological state of affairs at this time. She said that this was going to be the end of a dark era. She talked about how exciting it is to be alive during this transformation of consciousness. She reminded us that we have to go through some extremely uncomfortable experiences, seemingly disastrous, before we can get to the transformation of our world, but the expansion it creates is meaningful and impactful. She said that this will put an end to illusion and delusion, that big brother influence that we have just had washing over our brains for so long. That's exciting. And that we're moving towards a more community-based connection to one another. Heather Rowan Robbins said the same thing, that collective consciousness. So, yeah, in the words of my other guest, Cody Weaving, I am you, you are me, we are one. That kind of collective consciousness. And that's exciting. So, reframing. I decided to apply what I just said, to my own personal experience, to remind myself that I have to go through some extremely uncomfortable experiences like becoming gray before I can transform, but the expansion that will result will be meaningful and impactful. It'll all be worth it. So that was helpful, shifting my energy and my thinking. So Susie had noted that I was, oh wait, excuse me. Before I get off of the topic of astrology, I wanted to reference a chart reading that I had in December that I also reviewed to kind of figure out what was going on with me. And this was a chart reading that Susie Wu had done with me. I took the time and reviewed that, and she had noted that I was coming to the end of a period of time during which my career had kind of been sidelined. I definitely felt that in the second half of 2024, and she had said that in January specifically, I was going to have a period of time when I was being poked by some of my biggest traumas. So this would be the purpose, for the purpose of seeing where I am with my healing of my traumas, to see if there was more healing to be done, or as Susie says, healing available to me in regard to my biggest traumas. She actually phrased it as this was going to be past PTSD traumas related to negative surprises. Those were her words. Now I thought about this heavy sadness that had just like swallowed me up temporarily. I realized that this was my past trauma poking at me. I have had negative surprises that have created PTSD. In fact, 2 specific experiences that I'll just briefly share to help you understand what that might look like. So I had 2 experiences where I was awakened from a sleep. This was around midnight, and 2 separate times, 2 separate incidences where a loved one was calling me, screaming, crying, saying that one of my closest people had been had died tragically and unexpectedly. Well, this happened 2 times, once in 2011, and I received that same exact call again at the same time of night in 2017. So those were extremely negative surprises that created PTSD for me. And that's what was being poked at. How are you doing with that, Tracy? Is there healing available around that? So, remember how I was saying how my body was hurting so bad, my joints were so swollen? I knew that I knew even at the time that this usually meant that there was some kind of emotion being released, or it was stuck, or it was being processed. So with this information, I connected the dots, and I'm like, oh, okay, that's what it was. So now I could do something about it. I had a really good cry. I put words to releasing the trauma related to those experiences. I usually do that in my car, not while I'm driving, but I'm not sure why I like to cry in my car, but I do. Anyway, one of the other amazing things that I noticed from this reading that Susie had said was that I must let go of any inferiority complexes. Now, remember, she was saying this in December about what was going to happen to me in January. So an inferiority complex is pretty much the same as having overwhelming insecurities about yourself, right? She said that these feelings and beliefs were going to be triggered in January. So, but it was going to be for the purpose of saying goodbye to them. This was great news. Do you remember me saying that during this gray period, I was questioning whether or not I should even have a show? I was questioning whether or not anybody would want to hear my story or listen to me. So yeah, say goodbye to the inferiority complex for sure. I was excited to shed those former versions of myself. And then I also was reminded when I listened to Lisa Adams' show, she said that the universe always provides for us and always is acting in our highest interest. That was a great reminder to me. And she gave us a mantra, and I quote, "All is well, everything is working out for our highest good. And out of this situation, only good will come, and I am safe." So fear makes us feel inherently unsafe. Fear is a huge blocker of creativity. Insecurities are based in fear. Inferiority complexes are based in fear. I'm not willing to live in fear anymore. In fact, I made a commitment many years ago when I recognized that I was largely living in fear to no longer live in fear. So I like Lisa's mantra, and I started saying that to myself as a means of shifting my energy. What we tell ourselves in our minds is of the utmost importance. All right, so it is already time to take another commercial break. Please stay tuned. When we return, I'm going to talk a little bit about things that I used from my fourth guest, Cody Weaving, and bring this all together. So please stay tuned. You're watching Talks with Tracy on Bold Brave Television Network. We'll be right back.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like, it was almost instant. Like, I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. You know, it feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic on the BBM Global Network, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Welcome back to Talks with Tracy, coming to you live on the Bold Brave Television Network. Thanks for joining me once again. So before the break, I was just talking about how important it is to, reframe our thoughts, to say positive mantras to ourselves. I referenced Lisa Adams' mantra that I actually did use to help shift my energy, and that was, and I quote, "All is well. Everything is working out for my highest good. And out of this situation, only good will come. I am safe." When I talk about shifting thoughts and shifting our thinking, I think of my son. So my son is an adult, and for the longest time, he just kind of had this belief that, you know, even when things are working out, you never know what could happen, so don't get too comfortable in thinking everything's going well, because you never know what's going to happen. I don't know how he had that belief system, because he was literally raised by me, but he did. Okay, so recently he has been going through he was feeling like unhappy in his life. He needed something bigger. He's young. He wanted to go see the world. And he started putting some plans into motion to accomplish that, to make a big change in his life. So as he was doing that, things were not really working out exactly as he had planned. So I started noticing that belief that he kind of carried for a long time, a little bit pessimistic, kind of taking hold. So I challenged his belief. We talk a lot. So every time I'd hear some kind of belief that was coming out that was of that nature, I would say, tell yourself something different. I just want you to say this simple mantra. I want you to say, everything always works out for me. Everything always works out for me. Everything always works out for me. Now, he kind of, laughed at me a little bit. We were on the phone, but I could feel his eyes rolling. And guess what? I kept saying it to him then until he started saying it to himself. And in very short order, I just noticed the biggest shift in his thinking. He started saying things like, well, I didn't think it was going to be this way. It's not how I planned it. I'm frustrated. I'm a little bit mad. But you know what? Maybe this is a good thing if it happens now, because then I won't have to deal with it later. So this is a good thing. And I was like, victory! Yay! That's an amazing shift in perspective that he has had, and a shift in perception. And that's going to help him in ways that he doesn't even recognize, that he doesn't even know. There's nothing going wrong in the universe. We may not like what's going on. We may get frustrated. We may get angry, but, we may not think that it's supposed to happen this way. But in fact, nothing happening in the universe is ever wrong. So that's just a quick example of how I use this to help my son too. All right, so far I've shared how I used information from the tools recommended by 3 of the 4 guests that I've had on in the past 4 weeks. Heather Rowan Robbins, who's a choice-based astrologer, psychic medium Lisa Adams, Susie Wu, who's an astrologer, a psychic, and an energy healer. Now I'd like to share with you what I gained from reviewing the show that I did with Cody Weaving. Now, Cody Weaving talked about clearing out the toxins in our body, detoxing our vessels, freeing ourselves from several different issues and parasites, all sorts of things. But he named some symptoms that we can treat basically by detoxing our bodies. So one of the symptoms that he said was this feeling of being stuck. Ding, ding, ding. Anxiety. Ding, ding. Brain fog, yes. Brain fog, yes. Insomnia, I rarely have trouble sleeping, but during this time period, I had a lot of trouble sleeping. Weakness, fatigue, all of those things I was experiencing. Now, he had a much longer list that he presented on the show, but these are the symptoms that I specifically was experiencing. So one of the things Cody reminded us right off the bat was that, you don't have to do all of these things at once. Just start slow, start someplace. So I did. I went to the health food store and I started the process of clearing out my vessel, getting some of these toxins out of my body with the purchase of dandelion root and burdock root. So that's the tea that Cody had said that he starts each day with, starting simple. adding one thing. After I bought this, I Googled the health benefits of dandelion root, and guess what? It is rich in antioxidants. It helps regulate blood sugar, which is great for me with diabetes. It's an anti-inflammatory. Hello, I needed that. It supports liver functioning. It helps maintain healthy blood pressure, reduces cholesterol levels. It's a good source of calcium for bone health. How amazing is that? And then I Googled burdock root as well, and I found that it helps in much the same way. And it's also really good for your skin. And it actually said that you can make a little paste with it and put it on blemishes on your skin. Who knew? Well, maybe some of you did know all of that, but I didn't. I was learning. I am learning. So I boiled up some tea. I have made it part of my morning routine, and it's already helping me to feel healthier and cleaner, lighter. So I will say that this took a certain degree of showing up for myself, prioritizing myself. Now, Susie Wu stressed the need to show up for ourselves. And, she said that it's so important to show up for ourselves because we can't give from an empty bucket. And that's so true. We have to make ourselves a priority. I encourage all of you out there listening to do the same. Make yourself a priority. I actually took a day off from work, which I rarely do, to get these things in order. I bought these roots. I bought a pot to boil the tea in. I bought some, healthy foods. I took a moment for myself to organize because had I not taken some time off and focused on this to get organized, it wouldn't have happened. I would have, gone home frazzled and tired and not done any of it. So now I also, when I was listening to the show I did with Cody Weaving, I reflected back on the 7 things that Cody incorporates into his life. And I thought about how I would incorporate those things into my own life. So the 7 things that he listed as things to incorporate into our daily living were prayer, healthy food and water intake, movement, exercise, grounding ourselves, reading and writing, expressing ourselves and having healthy communication, and doing something for our inner child, laughing, playing. So some of these things I'm pretty good at doing already. Some can use improvement. I'm committed to this improvement and incorporating these things. It's a great roadmap for optimal health and well-being, and a great plan for avoiding getting in these moments of feeling stuck. So I'm going to use it for that purpose. I also plan on doing that parasite detox. Just the thought of having parasites in us, yuck. So he said to do that when the next full moon comes around. I think that's like in a week and a half. So I'm going to do that too. All right. So, I hope that in describing all this, I've served the purpose that I wish to accomplish. The purpose in doing this is to use myself as a demonstration and an example of how we can use all this great information, all these tools, to get unstuck and reignite our forward movement and growth. In thinking about the word stuck, we really don't get stuck, right? So I'm going to shift my word. I'm going to shift it to these moments of discontent, discomfort, unpleasantness, because as I said earlier, there's no such thing as being stagnant. We're always moving forward. It just feels like when we're in these moments of discontent, it feels really yucky, like we're not moving forward, but there are all sorts of things happening with us, and it is all unpleasant movement forward that needs to take place so that we can get to the other side, right? And I also want to say that you can put any of these things to good use. You can start any of these things today. Now, I did mention some things that I used to help me understand what was going on with me. I mentioned that I used the astrology chart readings, my personal readings for my astrology chart to understand what was happening. And I also have received psychic readings from Lisa and Susie. But if you don't have money, you don't have to do those things. You can start like right today with things that don't cost anything. I would recommend prioritizing yourself, and as you can, just tuck a little money away so you can you can get a reading and you can get that guidance. It's amazing. But if that's not today, you can start in so many other ways. You can start by shifting the thinking, your perspective. You can change the words that you use in your mind. It's all free. You can do that for free. And Heather Rowan Robbins, she puts readings on astrology, readings on the internet that are free. She puts like a daily reading up for people. Doesn't cost anything. You can look at what's going on in the universe and move with the rhythms of life in that way. That's free. You can boil up some tea, that dandelion root and burdock root. It wasn't very expensive. It just took some effort on my part. You can start putting good things into your body. All of those things are not costly. So yeah, start today. Absolutely. It has worked for me. I mean, I've been sitting here talking for an hour, and when I was in my gray period, couldn't think of anything to say, and I just talked for almost an hour. So it worked. I was able to creatively come up with a show, and I'm no longer sad, and my body feels so much better. All of these things. All right, so I guess I can say that this Princess Poppy got her color back. That's amazing. Just by listening to the words of these amazing people and following their guidance and their recommendation, using their tools. It's funny how when you do these things, you really start to know synchronicities happening in your life, things unfolding. So I'll share one of those with you. On Sunday this past week, I was feeling much better. I came downstairs and I heard the movie Trolls playing on the TV. My little girl was watching it as she was doing arts and crafts in the living room. And it was at the end of the movie where Princess Poppy and Branch, the pessimistic troll who turns optimistic at the end, they team up to save the trolls. And they also in the process show the Bergens that happiness was inside them all along. It reminded me that happiness was inside me all along as well. So I watched the end of the show with my daughter. And at the end, you know what comes at the end of every Trolls movie, right? A great dance party. Yeah, so I looked at my daughter. I'm like, hey, you gonna dance with me or what? So she jumped up, and yeah, we participated in that dance party. And we were like copying their moves. We were laughing. We were enjoying with each other, enjoying each other. And we did that until, she looked at me and was like, okay, Mom, that's enough. And she went back to her arts and crafts. But that was a great moment for me. So yeah, that was me doing Cody Weaving's number 7, my inner child, right? Like just supporting my inner child. So I would say I nailed it. I nailed number 7. All right, so I want us all to remember when we are having these moments, when we feel ourselves starting to lose our color, starting to turn gray, that we are always in the right place at the right time, engaged in what we're supposed to be doing. I've needed to stop thinking that I should be here, or I wish I would be at this place, or I should be farther ahead, I should be doing something different. I have had to just take the word should right out of my vocabulary. It smacks of judgment, right? And we want to stay away from judging ourselves. We don't want to do that anymore. So there's a saying, stop shoulding on yourself. So that's what I'm also focused on. I need to offer myself grace. I have true faith that nothing is ever wrong in the universe. Everything has meaning and purpose, even if it doesn't go according to the plan that I have. There's much greater energies and motion, things in motion, like the divine plan. And as Lisa Adams said, sometimes we have to go to these places of extreme discomfort. If everything was always sunshine, daisies, and blue skies, there would be no contrast. And how are you going to know when you have it good if you've never experienced the unpleasant? I mean, it'd be nice if we didn't have to experience the unpleasant, but the fact of the matter is we actually need the contrast in order to progress in life. So I want to end today's show two ways. First, expressing my deepest gratitude to all these wonderful guests that I have on. I appreciate all of them so much. I appreciate all you listeners so much as well. I learn every single time I have a guest on, I learn something. And I hope that all of you learn things from this too and are able to put these things into practice. And secondly, the way I would like to end this show is I want to end it with my very best effort at spreading Princess Poppy happiness and love. So for this, I'm going to borrow from some words of Susie Wu. Now I'm in training with her. I listen to her all the time. I hear the things she says. Now this isn't a quote. These are just things that I've kind of compiled and put into a few paragraphs for just things for me to give to you and for you to receive. Kind of an inspiring paragraph. So it's not a quote, but it's kind of like that. And when I talk about receiving, if you are one of those people who, when you get a beautiful compliment, like, oh my gosh, you look beautiful today. If you're one of those people who's like, yeah, right, or whatever, or even in your head, you're like, what do they want? Okay, that means you have some difficulty receiving. We want to be open to receiving all of these good things. So I'm going to ask you to open yourself up for a few moments, for a few minutes to receiving some really good, kind, loving, supportive words. All right, so let's take a deep breath in. It's always a great way to start, just kind of centering, grounding ourselves. And if you want to close your eyes while you are receiving this, you can. If you don't want to, you can keep your eyes open, whatever is right for you. So here we go. I want to encourage everyone to give thanks for this life and to treat yourselves like the beautiful miracles you are. You are no less than the same exact miracle that you were when you were born into this world. Just picture yourself for a moment looking into the face of a newborn baby. Think of all the kindness and the love and the adoring thoughts and all of those great things, those feelings that you have when you look at a newborn baby. And then I just want you to take all of those words and apply them to yourself. Okay, apply them to yourself, because you are also a beautiful miracle of creation. You were that when you were born, and you're still that today. And sometimes we get conditioned out of that. But the truth is, you are still a miracle of creation. You're not small, you're not insignificant. Each and every one of you is a beautiful miracle. Value yourself. Know that you are love itself. You're a reflection of creation itself. There really is so much joy to be had, even in hard times. There's always something to be thankful for. So let your light shine bright, inside and out. Realign with a healthier self-worth. Live in alignment with your values. Everything falls into place for you. And even though sometimes things may not go as planned or as you thought they would be, rest assured that everything is happening for your highest good. Everything has meaning and purpose. And when we can't have the old when we are asking for the new. Sometimes there has to be discomfort, but you are willing to experience the discomfort because you're here to grow. You know that you're loved. Just know that you're loved way, way, way more, way beyond your human understanding. And take comfort in that. Be assured that all is right in the universe. Just know that you're always surrounded by love, and you're always being held by a divine purpose and plan, and a higher energy. All right, so now if you had your eyes closed, go ahead and open them. And I want you just to take a moment to smile. Put a big smile on your face. I'm going to give you homework. I want you, when you're looking in the mirror at your own reflection, I want you to smile before you turn away from it. That is another totally free practice that you can incorporate in your lives. Every day, we all look in the mirror every day. And you can start that today, because every time you smile at yourself, it just ping lights up those good chemicals in your brain, and it helps you to have a good day and appreciate yourself. So that's your homework. All right, so thank you so much for listening to this story of my ongoing evolution. I really appreciate that. I hope it has been helpful. I hope it serves its intended purpose. If you would like to connect with me, please do so. I'd love to hear from you. The name of my website is tcholistichealing.com. And there you'll find information about services I provide, links to my various social media platforms and things. It's a work in progress, and I'm excited to see what happens with it in this year of 2025. So next week, I'll be visiting, I mentioned this before, I'll be visiting with the wonderful Susie Wu, and for Valentine's Day, we're going to talk about how to create the most incredible energetic auras that attract love relationships. That'll be fun, so please join me for that. Until then, do a little self-care out there. I'm going to do the same. This has been Talks with Tracy on Bold Brave Television Network. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next week.
This has been Talks with Tracy. Join us each week as Tracy and her guests will come together and realize that underneath it all, we are all the same and never alone. So join us each week and let Talks with Tracy be your safe place to land in your healing journey. Right here, Thursdays, 11 a.m. Eastern on the